Welcome to the Crucible of Sharpsburg, an exploration of the Battle of Antietam. Fought on September 17, 1862, in Washington County, Maryland, this pivotal clash stands as the bloodiest single-day battle in American military history, resulting in a staggering 22,717 casualties. Though a costly Union victory, its impact reached far beyond the battlefield. This presentation examines how a single day of unprecedented violence forever transformed the local landscape, revolutionized military medicine, and fundamentally altered the geopolitical trajectory of the American Civil War. Explore the profound, lasting legacy left upon the people of Sharpsburg and the entire course of a nation divided. General Robert E. Lee's invasion of Maryland was far more than a sudden troop movement. It was a high-stakes geopolitical gambit designed to alter the entire course of the war through three critical objectives. Relieve Virginia. By shifting the theater of war northward into unravaged territory, Lee aimed to spare Virginia's infrastructure and allow its farmers to safely harvest vital crops. Influence elections. Winning a decisive victory on Union soil was intended to sway northern midterm congressional elections toward a compromise peace. Secure foreign recognition. A successful Northern campaign would prove Confederate viability to Great Britain and France, securing formal diplomatic recognition and potential military intervention. As the Confederacy advanced, General Lee issued Special Orders 191, scattering his forces along four distinct paths. Jackson moved toward Harper's Ferry. McClellan and Anderson targeted Maryland Heights. Walker marched to Loudoun, and Longstreet and D.H. Hill halted at Boonesboro as a rearguard. This bold dispersion, however, led to a catastrophic intelligence leak. At a former Confederate camp on the Best Farm near Frederick, Union soldiers from the 27th Indiana Volunteer Infantry made an unbelievable discovery. 3 cigars wrapped inside a lost, drafted copy of those exact operational orders. Upon receiving the intelligence, a confident Union General George B. McClellan famously declared that if he could not defeat Bobby Lee with this document, he would be willing to go home. As both armies converged, the operational parameters heavily favored a concentrated Union assault. Major General George B. McClellan commanded the Army of the Potomac with an estimated 65,000 to 75,000 engaged forces. Armed with recovered intelligence, his tactical objective was to destroy Lee's army, though his strategic mindset remained cautious, converging, and hesitant to deploy reserves. He relied on key sub-commanders Hooker, Mansfield, Sumner, and Burnside. Conversely, General Robert E. Lee led a heavily outnumbered army of Northern Virginia with approximately 40,000 forces. Driven by an aggressive mindset, Lee was willing to divide and risk his entire force. Supported by Jackson, Longstreet, D.H. Hill, and A.P. Hill, Lee's urgent tactical objective was simply to consolidate his divided forces and survive the oncoming Union onslaught. The harsh geography of Sharpsburg dictated a tactical battlefield dominated by severe choke points. Antietam Creek, deep, swift, and meandering, served as a natural moat that strictly limited Union offensive options. Crossing this barrier required funneling troops through the 3 stone bridges, the only viable pathways for heavy infantry and artillery, which allowed small Confederate forces to easily defend them. Meanwhile, the town of Sharpsburg functioned as a vital road hub, enabling Lee to rapidly shift reinforcements between the northern and southern sectors via internal farm lanes. Hanging over the entire Confederate position was Bottler's Ford, Lee's single, critical escape route across the Potomac River into Virginia. Had the Union captured it, the Confederate Army would have faced total destruction. Morning brought absolute slaughter to the Cornfield and West Woods. Between dawn and 10 a.m., Union forces under Hooker, Mansfield, and Sumner clashed violently with Jackson's Confederates, leaving approximately 10,000 men killed or wounded. David Miller's 24-acre cornfield became a horrific focal point, changing hands no fewer than 6 times in just 3 hours. The devastation was so complete that Hooker noted every stalk of corn was cut as closely as could have been done with a knife. Nearby, at 9 a.m., Union General John Sedgwick's tightly packed division marched into the West Woods, only to be caught in a devastating Confederate flank attack. In a mere 20 minutes, Sedgwick lost 2,200 of his 5,300 men, abruptly halting the Union offensive on the northern sector. By midday, the center of the conflict shifted to the Sunken Road. Between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., a brutal struggle erupted, claiming approximately 5,500 killed or wounded. General D. H. Hill's Confederates utilized a worn, sunken farm lane as a natural trench, forming a formidable defensive breastwork against the heavy assaults of Sumner's Second Corps, which included the famed Irish Brigade. After taking massive losses while cresting the ridge, Union troops successfully executed a crucial flanking maneuver, unleashing devastating enfilade fire directly down the length of the lane. The Sunken Road quickly transformed into a corridor of death, forever known as Bloody Lane. Though the Confederate center was pierced and entirely exposed, General McClellan ultimately refused to commit his reserves. Missing a vital opportunity to shatter Lee's line, the exhausted Union troops fell back by 1 p.m. As afternoon arrived, a desperate crossing gave way to a devastating counterattack from 1 p.m. to dusk, claiming the day's final thousands of casualties. At Burnside Bridge, just 500 Georgia riflemen under General Robert E successfully bottlenecked Burnside's 9th Corps for 3 hours before Federal forces finally forced a crossing at 1 p.m. By 3 p.m., a mile-wide Union battle line advanced toward the road to Bottler's Ford, with the 9th New York, Hawkins Zouaves, suffering 63% casualties on the town's outskirts. Just as the Union neared victory, General A. P. Hill's Light Division arrived from a grueling 17-mile march from Harper's Ferry. Slamming into the exposed Union left flank, the Confederate counterattack broke the raw 16th Connecticut Infantry, causing the entire Union line to collapse. The bloodiest single day of combat left a permanent scar on the Sharpsburg landscape, resulting in 22,717 combined casualties, 12,401 Union and 10,316 Confederate. To document the staggering scale of death, engineer Simon G. Elliott compiled a meticulous map in 1864. The Elliott map plotted the temporary burial locations of more than 5,800 soldiers and piles of dead horses directly across the battlefield terrain. Because post-war exhumations were imperfect, modern archaeology continues to uncover the human cost of the fight. Recent excavations near the Sunken Road have recovered a soldier of the Irish Brigade carrying a rosary and crucifix, as well as a young New York soldier, aged 17 to 19, identified by his state coat buttons. The immense carnage at Antietam forced a revolution in modern battlefield medicine through the implementation of the Letterman system. Tested to its absolute extreme, Major Jonathan Letterman's multi-stage flowchart successfully cleared all wounded Union soldiers from the field in just 24 hours, leading to its official adoption by Congress in 1864. The system relies on a dedicated ambulance corps to move patients through 4 structured stages. Stage 1. Battlefield extraction. Trained stretcher bearers immediately retrieve wounded soldiers. Stage 2. Field dressing station. Medical personnel establish triage, prioritizing patients by wound severity rather than military rank. Stage 3. Field hospital. Just behind the lines, surgeries and amputations take place, notably supported here by civilian Clara Barton, who arrived independently with wagons of vital supplies at the Pry House Hospital. Stage 4. Permanent hospital. Stable patients transferred to large, formal facilities for long-term recovery. Though the tactical outcome at Antietam was a bloody stalemate, Lee's retreat triggered 3 world-altering shockwaves that permanently reshaped the conflict. Politically, it provided President Lincoln the position of strength he needed to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation 5 days later, transforming the war into a moral crusade to destroy slavery. Diplomatically, the check on Lee's advance caused Great Britain and France to permanently abandon their impending plans for mediation and formal Confederate recognition. Finally, the overwhelming scale of medical trauma birthed a modern architecture of trauma care. Proving the efficacy of the Letterman system, this campaign established the foundational triage and ambulance frameworks still utilized by global militaries and emergency responders today. Preserving the map, the memory, and the context of Antietam requires a dedicated commitment to historical legacy. In the 1890s, veteran Ezra Ayres Carman and engineer Emmer B. Cope conducted exhaustive research with hundreds of veterans. Their efforts culminated in the 1904 Atlas of the Battlefield of Antietam, producing 14 incredibly detailed maps that still dictate the placement of cast iron markers on the physical battlefield today. Furthermore, preservation efforts have successfully expanded the protected area from a mere 60 federal acres to roughly 8,000 acres, safeguarding the landscape's 1862 agricultural context. Standing proudly on this ground is the Maryland Monument, a powerful legacy of reconciliation erected by a divided state to honor both its Union and Confederate sons under a single inscription.